I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. My daughter called me the night of her wedding rehearsal. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the classical music I could hear behind her. Mother, where are you? We need you for photos. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the Riverside venue in Savannah, Georgia. In my hands was a wrapped gift, my late husband's embroidered handkerchief, the one he carried on our wedding day 30 years ago. I just overheard my daughter and her fiancé rehearsing how to humiliate me in front of 200 guests. Did you enjoy the gift I'm sending? I said quietly into the phone. There was a pause, the kind that pulls all the air out of a conversation. What gift? Rachel asked. You'll see it on your wedding day, I said, right before the ceremony. I hung up before she could respond. 24 hours later, that gift would destroy her perfect wedding. It would expose secrets she'd been hiding for 6 months, and it would teach her that the mother she'd been mocking owned something more valuable than she ever imagined. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start 3 weeks earlier when I still believed my daughter loved me. The morning sun came through the window of my sewing workshop on East Victory Drive just after 7. I'd been up since 5 working on Mrs. Patterson's bridesmaid dress. The pale blue chiffon was delicate work, the kind that required steady hands and good light. My hands weren't as steady as they used to be. I was 58 and arthritis had started creeping into my fingers 2 years back. But I could still do the work. I had to. The workshop paid my rent. The bell above the door chimed. Special delivery for Margaret Thompson, a young courier called out. I set down my needle and walked to the front. The envelope he handed me was thick, cream-colored. Expensive paper, the kind Rachel always insisted on. Thank you, I said, signing for it. When he left, I turned the envelope over in my hands. The return address read the Whitmore Estate, Savannah, GA, Brandon's family, Rachel's soon-to-be in-laws. I slid my finger under the seal and pulled out the invitation. Heavy cardstock with gold lettering. Mr. and Mrs. James Whitmore Sr. request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their son Brandon James Whitmore to Miss Rachel Marie Thompson. No mention of me as the bride's mother. Just my name on the inner envelope, Mrs. Margaret Thompson. Not Mom, not even Maggie. I stood there in my workshop, surrounded by half-finished dresses and the smell of fabric sizing, holding an invitation to my own daughter's wedding that didn't acknowledge I'd raised her alone after her father died. The bell chimed again. Maggie, you okay? May Chen, my friend and fellow seamstress, came through the door carrying 2 cups of coffee from the diner next door. You look like you've seen a ghost. Rachel's wedding invitation, I said, handing it to her. May scanned it, her expression hardening. They didn't even list you as the bride's mother. The Whitmores are particular about these things, I said, taking the coffee from her. Rachel said they have a format they follow for all family weddings. Maggie, May set her coffee down on my work table. You're not all family. You're her mother, the woman who worked 3 jobs to put her through college. I took a sip of coffee to avoid responding. It was too hot, burned my tongue. May had been my friend for 12 years since I'd first opened this workshop. She'd watched me raise Rachel alone after David died. She'd been there the night Rachel graduated summa cum laude from University of Georgia. She'd celebrated with me when Rachel got her first job at a marketing firm in Atlanta. She'd also watched Rachel slowly distance herself over the past 5 years. When's the RSVP deadline? May asked. I checked the card. Last week. You're kidding. I'm sure it just got delayed in the mail, I said, though we both knew that wasn't true. May shook her head. You want me to help you pick out something to wear? I'm making something, I said. I have that navy fabric from Maggie. May's voice went soft. Buy something new, something that makes you feel beautiful. You deserve that. I looked down at my work-worn hands, the calluses on my fingers from years of needlework. I'm fine with what I have. No, you're not. May picked up her coffee. But you will be? After she left, I sat at my sewing machine for 20 minutes without starting the motor. The invitation lay on the table beside me, those gold letters catching the light. I picked up my phone and dialed Rachel's number. It rang 4 times before she answered. Mother, I'm in a meeting. I received your invitation, I said. Oh, good. Did you RSVP because the caterer needs a final count by? The deadline was last week, sweetheart. The invitation just arrived today. A pause. That's strange. We sent those out 6 weeks ago. We both knew she was lying, but I didn't call her on it. I'd be honored to attend, I said. Should I call the Whitmores to confirm? No. Her voice was quick, almost sharp. Just text me. I'll add you to the list. What should I wear? Is there a dress code? Another pause. Longer this time. Victoria Brandon's mother, she's coordinating the color scheme. I'll send you some guidelines. I was thinking of wearing that navy dress I made last. Mother, please. Rachel's tone had that edge it always got when she was embarrassed. Just wear something appropriate. Something that won't stand out. My chest tightened. Of course. I have to go. The wedding planner is waiting. Rachel, before you hang up. What's I wanted to ask her if she was happy, if Brandon treated her well, if she was sure about this, if she remembered the promise she'd made at her father's funeral that we'd always be a team, just the two of us. Instead, I said, I love you, sweetheart. Love you too. Gotta go. The line went dead. I sat there in my workshop, surrounded by other people's special occasions, wedding dresses, prom gowns, christening outfits, and realized I'd become a stranger at my own daughter's wedding. But I was used to that feeling. I'd been feeling it for 5 years, ever since Rachel met Brandon Whitmore at a charity gala in Atlanta. Rachel had come home for Christmas that year, glowing with excitement. Mom, I met someone, she'd said, sitting at my small kitchen table with cocoa I'd made from the cheap mix at Piggly Wiggly. His name is Brandon. Mom, he's amazing. Tell me about him, I'd said, settling into the chair across from her. He's a vice president at his family's company. They do real estate development all over the Southeast, historic preservation mostly. His father is James Whitmore Sr., Whitmore Development Group. I didn't know, but I nodded anyway. He went to Vanderbilt. He's smart, Mom, and funny, and he treats me like I'm the most important person in the world. How did you meet? At the Heritage Foundation Gala. My firm was handling their PR campaign. She'd paused, then wrapping her hands around the mug. His mother is... She's a lot. Victoria Whitmore. She's on every board in Savannah. Very old money, very proper. Did you meet her? Briefly, at the gala. Rachel had looked down at her cocoa. She asked me where I went to school. When I said UGA, she said, oh, how public. I'd felt my back straighten. What did you say? I laughed it off. Brandon apologized for her later. He said she's just protective of the family name. Rachel. Mom, I really like him, and I think this could be serious. I'd reached across the table and taken her hand. Then I'm happy for you, sweetheart. I can't wait to meet him. But when Brandon finally came to meet me 6 months later, the visit lasted exactly 45 minutes. They'd arrived at my workshop on a Saturday afternoon. Brandon wore khakis and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. Rachel was in white linen, her hair professionally styled. This is cozy, Brandon had said, looking around at my work tables and dress forms. It's small, but it's mine, I'd replied, extending my hand. It's nice to finally meet you, Brandon. His handshake was brief, professional, the kind you'd give a business acquaintance, not your girlfriend's mother. Mom makes the most beautiful wedding dresses, Rachel had said, and I'd heard something in her voice I'd never heard before. Apology, almost like she was explaining me. That's a real craft, Brandon had said. My mother uses Vera Wang, but I'm sure your work is nice. We'd had sweet tea on my small back patio. Brandon had checked his watch 3 times in 20 minutes. When Rachel went to use the bathroom, he'd leaned forward. Mrs. Thompson, I want you to know my intentions toward Rachel are serious. I'm glad to hear that. My family has certain expectations for our partners, standards we maintain. I'd set down my tea glass carefully. What kind of standards? Social standards, business connections, the way we present ourselves publicly. He'd smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm sure you understand. You want what's best for Rachel, too. I do? Then you'll understand why it's important that she fits in with our circle. I'd understood perfectly. He was telling me I didn't fit in, and by extension I made Rachel not fit in. When they left, Rachel had hugged me quickly at the door. He's nervous, she'd whispered. Meeting parents is hard for him. He seems very proper, I'd said carefully. The Whitmores are old Savannah, Mom. They have certain ways of doing things. Are you happy? She'd pulled back, smiled brightly, too brightly. I'm really happy. But I'd seen something in her eyes that day that I hadn't seen since her father died. Fear, of losing something, of not being enough. I shook off the memory and looked at the invitation again. The wedding was in 3 weeks, June 15th at the Riverside venue overlooking the Savannah River. Ceremony at 5, reception to follow. I pulled out my phone and sent Rachel a text. Confirmed attendance. So happy for you, sweetheart. Let me know if you need any help with preparations. Love, Mom, she replied 3 hours later. Thanks. Everything's handled. Victoria has a wedding planner. See you there. No heart emoji. No love you too. Just acknowledgement. I turned back to Mrs. Patterson's dress and tried to focus on the stitches, but my hands were shaking too much to thread the needle. May was right. Something had changed in Rachel, and it had started the day she met Brandon Whitmore. But what could I do? She was 30 years old, an adult, making her own choices. I was just her mother, the seamstress from East Victory Drive who didn't fit into Victoria Whitmore's world. I picked up the invitation one more time. As I did, I noticed something I'd missed before. The envelope had a return label printed in the corner, Whitmore Development Group, 428 Drayton Street, Savannah, GA. 428 Drayton Street. That address sounded familiar, but I couldn't place why. I set the invitation aside and got back to work. I had dresses to finish, bills to pay, a daughter's wedding to prepare for. The Riverside venue sat on a bluff overlooking the Savannah River, surrounded by live oaks dripping with Spanish moss. It was the kind of place that appeared in Southern Living magazine, all white columns and manicured gardens. I'd driven past it 100 times and never imagined I'd set foot inside. But here I was, pulling into the parking lot in my 15-year-old Honda Civic surrounded by BMWs and Mercedes. Rachel had texted that morning, "Need you for pre-rehearsal photos. 4 p.m. Don't be late. No please. No explanation. Just a summons." I'd closed my workshop early and driven straight here, still wearing my work clothes, simple black pants and a white blouse that needed ironing. In the passenger seat was the gift I'd been working on for weeks. David's embroidered handkerchief carefully wrapped in tissue paper and tied with ivory ribbon. David had carried it on our wedding day. His mother had embroidered it with his initials and our wedding date. After he died, I'd kept it in a cedar box in my closet, taking it out only on our anniversary. I'd planned to give it to Rachel as her something old, a piece of her father to carry with her. Now sitting in the parking lot, I wondered if she'd even want it. I grabbed the package and headed toward the entrance. The venue coordinator met me at the door, a woman in her 30s with a clipboard and a Bluetooth headset. "Name of Margaret Thompson. I'm the bride's mother." "Right, you're early. The bridal party isn't ready for photos yet." She glanced at my outfit, her expression flickering with something like pity. "There's a waiting area in the east wing. Help yourself to water." She gestured down a hallway and turned back to her clipboard. I walked down the corridor, my flat silent on the marble floor. Everything here was elegant, expensive. Crystal chandeliers, oil paintings in gilt frames, fresh flowers in arrangements that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. I found the waiting area a small parlor with velvet sofas and a coffee service. I was the only one there. Through the window, I could see the ceremony site being set up. White chairs in neat rows, a flower-covered archway, a string quartet testing their instruments. It was beautiful, exactly what Rachel had always dreamed of. I set my purse and the wrapped gift on a side table and poured myself water from the crystal pitcher. My hands trembled slightly and I spilled a little on the mahogany surface. I quickly wiped it with a cocktail napkin. Voices echoed from somewhere down the hall. Laughter. Rachel's laugh. I found myself following the sound without thinking. Down another corridor. Past rooms with closed doors. Until I reached a room with a door standing half open, spilling light and laughter into the hallway. The bridal suite. "Okay, try it again," Rachel was saying, her voice bright with excitement. "From the top." I stopped in the shadows just outside the door. "Ladies and gentlemen," a woman's voice, Tiffany, one of Rachel's bridesmaids from Atlanta, said in a theatrical tone, "we have a very special moment in tonight's program, a blessing from the bride's family." More laughter. Wait, another bridesmaid, Jessica. "Should I have the prop ready?" "Yes," Rachel said. "That's the best part." I pressed closer to the door. My heart started beating faster. "So I say the bride's mother, Margaret, wanted to share something special," Tiffany continued. "And that's when you bring out the bag." "The fanny pack?" Jessica asked. Laughter erupted. Not polite laughter, the kind that had sharp edges. "The vintage fanny pack she's been using since 1995, Rachel said. I could hear the smile in her voice. "I found photos. It's leopard print." Oh my God, Rachel, Jessica giggled. That's savage. Brandon's voice joined in. My dad's going to lose it. I felt something cold slide down my spine. My hand went to the doorframe to steady myself. Then we show the slideshow, Rachel continued. Mom at the outlet mall. Mom cutting coupons at the kitchen table. Mom at the grocery store using, and I quote, triple coupons on double coupon day. Stop, I can't breathe, Tiffany gasped through laughter. It's not mean, Rachel said quickly. It's affectionate. We're celebrating her, her thriftiness, her poverty, Brandon said, and the laughter got louder. My vision blurred. I grabbed the doorframe harder. Brandon, Rachel said, but she was laughing too. Don't say it like that. I'm kidding, babe. It's funny. She's sweet. Just, very... He paused, searching for the word. Quaint. She still talks to Dad's picture, Rachel added. Every morning. Good morning, David, like he's actually there. That's actually sad, Jessica said quietly. It's been 12 years, Rachel replied. At some point you have to move on. Silence for a beat. Then Victoria Whitmore's voice, cultured and sharp. Darling, this is all very amusing, but have you thought about logistics? What if your mother gets upset? She won't, Rachel said confidently. She never does. She'll just smile and take it. That's what she does. You're sure? Victoria pressed. Trust me, I've been doing this for years. Mom she wants to please everyone. She'll laugh along. And if she doesn't, Brandon asked, then we pivot, Rachel said. Tiffany will have the rescue line ready. Something about, where would we be without the women who shaped us, blah, blah. Everyone claps. We move on. Perfect, Victoria said. It will be the highlight of the reception. People love a good family roast. Exactly, Rachel agreed. And it takes attention off the fact that she's, not exactly Whitmore material. Well, Victoria said with a light laugh, none of us can choose our families, can we? But we can laugh about them. The room erupted again. Someone clinked a champagne glass. I stood in that hallway for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Every word they'd said pressed down on me like weights. Quaint, poverty. Not exactly Whitmore material. She'll just smile and take it. That's what she does. My daughter. The girl I'd raised alone. The girl I'd worked 3 jobs for. The girl who'd promised me at David's funeral that we'd always be a team. She was planning to humiliate me in front of 200 people, to make me the punchline of her perfect wedding. And she was confident I'd just take it. Because that's what I always did. I backed away from the door. Slowly, carefully, so they wouldn't hear me. My heel caught on the edge of a rug. I stumbled, caught myself against the wall. Did you hear something? Someone inside asked. Probably the caterers, Rachel said. Come on, let's run through the timeline one more time. I moved quickly back down the hallway, past the waiting room, past the coordinator who called out something I didn't hear, out to the parking lot. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking so badly I couldn't get the key in the door. When I finally got inside, I sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel. The wrapped handkerchief sat on the passenger seat. My husband's handkerchief, the one I'd been planning to give our daughter. I picked it up, felt the weight of it, the history in it. Then I set it back down and started the car. I drove home through downtown Savannah, the evening light turning everything gold. Tourists walked along River Street. Families had dinner at outdoor cafes. The city was beautiful, vibrant, alive. I felt dead inside. When I got home, I sat in my kitchen for an hour without turning on the lights. The house was quiet. Too quiet. It had been too quiet for 12 years since David died and left me alone in it. On the refrigerator was a photo of Rachel's college graduation. She was wearing her cap and gown, arms around me, both of us beaming. Underneath, she'd written in marker, "Thanks for everything, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." I stared at that photo until the last light faded from the sky. Then I got up, went to the coat closet, and pulled down the steel lockbox from the top shelf. David's lockbox, the one I hadn't opened since the lawyer gave it to me 12 years ago. It was time to see what my late husband had left me, and it was time to stop smiling and taking it. The lockbox sat on my kitchen table like a grenade. I'd looked at it 100 times over the past 12 years, but never opened it. The lawyer had given it to me the week after David's funeral, along with a thick folder of documents I'd barely glanced at. "Your husband was very thorough," the lawyer had said. "Everything is organized. Take your time reviewing it." But I'd been drowning back then. In grief. In fear about how I'd support Rachel. In the overwhelming practicality of just surviving. So I'd put the box away. Paid the bills with David's modest life insurance. Got 2 more part-time jobs to supplement my sewing work. Kept my head down and kept moving forward. Now I sat at that same kitchen table, the lockbox in front of me, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Curiosity and anger. My hands still trembled, but from rage now, not fear. She'll just smile and take it. That's what she does. Rachel's words echoed in my head. So confident. So certain that her mother would accept humiliation with grace. Because I always had. When Brandon had talked down to me about my cozy workshop. When Victoria had made snide comments about public universities. When Rachel had started introducing me as my mom who does textiles. Smile and take it. Don't make waves. Don't embarrass Rachel in front of her new family. But something had broken tonight. Some fundamental piece of me that had been holding everything together for 30 years. I found the key on my keychain. I'd kept it there all this time without really knowing why, and unlocked the box. Inside were files, neatly labeled in David's careful handwriting. Life insurance, paid mortgage, paid Rachel's college fund, active Thompson Properties, LLC. I stopped at that last one. Thompson Properties, LLC. I'd never heard David mention a company. He'd been a civil engineer working for the city of Savannah. We'd lived modestly, never talked about investments or business ventures. I pulled out the folder. Inside was a property deed. Official letterhead from the Chatham County Clerk's office, dated 20 years ago. Grantor Harrison Development Corp. Grantee Thompson Properties, LLC Property, 428 Drayton Street, Savannah, GA Building, 4-story commercial structure in Historic District 428 Drayton Street. The same address that had been on the Whitmore's wedding invitation return label. My heart started beating faster. I pulled out my phone and searched the address. Google Maps showed a beautiful historic building with large windows and detailed stonework. Built in 1887 according to the description. I scrolled down. Current tenants, Whitmore Development Group, 2nd floor, Riverside Gallery, 1st floor, Coastal Architects, 3rd floor, various offices, 4th floor, the Whitmores rented from, my building num. That couldn't be right. I dug deeper into the folder, found lease agreements, property tax statements, insurance documents, all listing Thompson Properties, LLC as the owner, all showing my name as the managing member. My name. I owned a 4-story commercial building in Savannah's historic district, and I'd had no idea. I sat back in my chair, the documents spread across my kitchen table, and tried to process what I was seeing. David had bought a building when. Why hadn't he told me I found a handwritten note paperclipped to one of the lease agreements? David's handwriting, Edeline my middle name, the one only David used. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about this property while I was alive. I didn't want you to worry about managing it, and honestly, I hoped I'd have more years to handle it myself. I bought this building 15 years ago with money inherited from my father's estate. It's been leased to commercial tenants ever since. The property management company details in attached folder handles everything repairs, rent collection, lease negotiations. The income goes into a separate account that should cover property taxes, insurance, and maintenance with a modest surplus. I wanted you to have security, Maggie. No matter what happened to me. You and Rachel. Don't sell it unless you absolutely need to. It's prime historic district real estate. It will only increase in value. All my love, David. My eyes filled with tears. I pressed my fingers to my mouth. David, always thinking ahead, always protecting me, even from the grave. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. The property management company was Coastal Property Services. According to the documents, they sent quarterly reports to a post office box David had set up. A post office box I didn't know existed. I looked through the folders again, found a small key taped to the inside cover. A tag read, P.O. Box 847 Savannah, GA. Tomorrow. First thing tomorrow, I'd go to that post office. But tonight I kept reading. The lease with Whitmore Development Group had been signed 5 years ago. Initial 5-year term with an option to renew for another 5 years at adjusted market rate. The renewal date was next week, 1 week after Rachel's wedding. And according to the property management company's notes handwritten in margins, there were issues. Payment 30 days late, May payment 60 days late, June payment 90 days late. July, I flipped to the most recent document. A notice from Coastal Property Services dated 3 months ago. Dear Mrs. Thompson, we regret to inform you that your tenant Whitmore Development Group is significantly behind on rent payments. Total arrears $47,000. We have sent multiple notices to the tenant without response. As their lease expires on June 22nd, we recommend not renewing unless they bring their account current and provide satisfactory proof of financial stability. Please contact our office to discuss next steps. $47,000. The Whitmores owed me $47,000, and their lease expired 1 week after the wedding. I sat in my kitchen surrounded by documents I'd never known existed and felt something shift inside me. My daughter had planned to humiliate me. She'd been hiding who I really was, a seamstress, someone quaint from the Whitmores, for 5 years. She'd made me into a joke for her wedding reception. And the entire time I'd owned the building her fiancé's family operated from. The family who thought I wasn't Whitmore material. I started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when the universe reveals its sense of irony. Then I stopped laughing and started reading every document in that lockbox with complete attention. By 3 a.m, I understood several things. 1. I owned a building worth approximately $2.3 million in current market value. 2. The Whitmores were in financial trouble, behind on rent, behind on their building permits according to news articles I found online. 3. Their lease required 90 days notice for non-renewal. 4. The 90-day notice period had passed 3 months ago. 5. Which meant legally I could choose not to renew their lease with only 7 days notice. 7 days, right after Rachel's wedding. I pulled out another folder and found something that made me stop breathing. A rent deferment request, dated 6 months ago, signed by James Whitmore Sr., and countersigned by someone listed as authorized representative of Thompson Properties, LLC. The signature read, Rachel Thompson. My daughter had signed a legal document on my behalf. Without my knowledge, without my permission. Rachel knew about the building. She knew I owned it. She'd been actively helping the Whitmores delay their rent payments, and she'd never told me. I sat at that kitchen table until the sun came up, surrounded by documents and betrayal. My phone buzzed at 7:30. A text from Rachel. Where were you last night? You missed the photos. Please tell me you're not going to be difficult about the wedding. I stared at that text for a long moment. Difficult. That's what I'd become by not showing up. Difficult. Not hurt, not betrayed, just difficult. I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up the business card that had fallen out of one of the folders. Robert Chen, attorney at law, estate planning and property management. David's lawyer. I dialed the number. A man answered on the second ring. Chen Law Office. Mr. Chen, this is Margaret Thompson, David Thompson's widow. A pause. Mrs. Thompson, I've been hoping you'd call for 12 years. I need to talk to you about my property, I said, and I need to talk to you today. I can be available this afternoon. How's 2 o'clock? I'll be there. I hung up and looked at the documents spread across my table, at David's handwritten note, at Rachel's forged signature on the deferment request. She'll just smile and take it. That's what she does. Not anymore, sweetheart. Not anymore. Robert Chen's office was in a converted Victorian house on Bull Street, painted a soft gray with white trim. The kind of place that made you feel like you were visiting a friend's home rather than a lawyer's office. I'd never been to a lawyer before, not since David died, and that had been in a sterile conference room at a bigger firm downtown. The receptionist, a kind-faced woman in her 60s, smiled when I came in. Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Chen is ready for you. Can I get you some water, coffee? Water would be lovely. Thank you. She led me to an office lined with bookshelves and photographs of what looked like family 3 generations of Chens, if I had to guess. Robert Chen stood when I entered. He was in his mid-50s, with gray streaking his dark hair and smile lines around his eyes. He wore a cardigan over his button-down shirt. Mrs. Thompson, he extended his hand. I'm so glad you finally came in. You said you've been hoping I'd call for 12 years. He gestured for me to sit. Your husband was my client for 15 years, a good man. He set up your property trust specifically to protect you, but he worried you wouldn't, forgive me for being blunt, that you wouldn't assert yourself when it came to managing it. I felt heat rise to my face. He was right. David wanted you to be taken care of, not just financially, but... He paused, choosing words carefully. He wanted you to have power, control over your own life. The building was meant to give you that. I didn't even know it existed until last night. Robert nodded. I sent letters to the address on file. Did you not receive them? I stopped, thought back. There were letters from a law office. I thought they were just, I don't know, standard estate follow-up. I didn't open most of them. I understand. Grief makes us avoid certain things. He pulled a folder from his desk. But you're here now. What made you finally look at the lockbox? I took a breath, told him everything. The wedding invitation, the overheard conversation, Rachel's plan to humiliate me, the discovery of the documents, the forged signature. By the time I finished, my water glass was empty and Robert was leaning back in his chair, his expression grave. Your daughter signed a rent deferment as your authorized representative without your actual authorization, he said. That's forgery, potentially fraud. I'm not interested in pressing charges against my daughter, I said quickly. I understand, but you need to understand the position this puts you in legally. The Whitmores could argue they had good faith belief that Rachel had authority to sign. Did she have any authority? Not according to your LLC documents. You're the sole managing member. No one else can sign on your behalf without written authorization. So the deferment is invalid, most likely, which means the Whitmores are still technically in arrears for the full $47,000. I sat with that information for a moment. Their lease expires next week. June 22nd, yes. I've been managing the property administratively through Coastal Property Services. They've been trying to contact you about renewal. What are my options? Robert opened a file. Option 1, renew their lease at current market rate, require them to pay the arrears in full and continue as before. And option 2, don't renew, issue a formal non-renewal notice. They'd have to vacate by the end of their current lease term, which is 7 days from now. Correct. Could I do that legally? Yes. The lease specifically states that renewal is at the landlord's discretion. And given their payment history and financial instability, he pulled out some articles from local business journals. There's sufficient cause to decline renewal. I looked at the articles. Headlines about Whitmore Development Group's overextended projects. Trouble with bank loans, regulatory issues. The perfect prestigious family that Rachel was so desperate to join was falling apart. If I don't renew their lease, I said slowly, what happens? They'd have to find new office space immediately. Given their financial situation and the tight commercial real estate market in the historic district, that could be difficult. Would it hurt their business? Robert met my eyes. It could cripple it. They've been using that address for client meetings, investor presentations. It's part of their brand Whitmore Development Group in the historic district. Without it, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. I sat in that comfortable office with its family photos and books and the late afternoon sun coming through the windows and felt something I'd never felt before. Power. Real power. Not the power to influence or convince. Not the power of martyrdom or self-sacrifice. The power to say no, to demand respect, to enforce consequences. It was terrifying. Mrs. Thompson, Robert said gently, you don't have to decide today. The wedding is tomorrow. I know. Rachel planned this comedy routine about me, about my clothes, my habits, my voice caught, my devotion to David's memory. Robert was quiet for a moment. Your husband loved you very much. I handled his estate planning. He talked about you constantly, how strong you were, how hard you worked, how you never complained. Maybe I should have complained more, I said. Maybe. He smiled softly. But it's not too late to start. I looked down at my hands, worn from sewing, calloused from work, hands that had held Rachel when she was born, hands that had put bandages on her scraped knees, hands that had pinned her prom dress and graduation gown, hands that had raised her alone after David died working jobs I hated to make sure she never went without. And she was going to stand in front of 200 people and make my life into a joke. Because she was ashamed of me. I need to think about this, I said. Robert nodded. That's wise. Don't make any decisions out of anger. But as I drove home that evening, I realized I wasn't angry. I was heartbroken. I sat on my back porch as the sun set over Savannah. The air was thick with humidity and the smell of gardenias from my neighbor's yard. Inside, spread across my kitchen table, were all the documents from David's lockbox. On my phone were 3 text messages from Rachel. Mom, where are you? We need to talk about tomorrow. Mom, answer your phone. You're making me nervous. Mom, I'm serious. If you're going to pull some kind of drama, I need to know now. Drama. I set my phone face down and picked up the photo of Rachel I kept on the porch table. Her college graduation. Both of us smiling. When had that girl disappeared? Or had she ever really existed? I thought back through the years. Tried to pinpoint the moment she'd started pulling away. It hadn't been sudden, not like death or divorce. It had been gradual, 1,000 small moments. The first time she'd forgotten to include me in plans with friends. The way she'd started saying my mom does sewing instead of my mom's a seamstress. The Christmas she'd suggested we skip our tradition of making cookies together because she had too much work. The time she'd asked me not to pick her up at her new apartment in Atlanta because the building has weird parking. 1,000 small cuts, none of them deep enough to make me object. But together they'd bled me out. And tomorrow she was planning the deepest cut of all. My phone rang. Rachel's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Mother, thank God. Where have you been? At home. I've been texting you all day. I know. I needed some time to think. A pause. About what? About tomorrow. Her voice shifted, became cajoling, the voice she used when she wanted something. Mom, I know the wedding has been stressful, with all Victoria's rules and the planning and everything, but it's just one day. Can you just be there for me? I'll be there. Relief flooded her voice. Thank God. You had me so worried. Listen about the seating. Rachel, I interrupted. I need to ask you something. Okay? Do you know who owns the building at 428 Drayton Street? Silence. Long-telling silence. Rachel. Why are you asking about that? Her voice had changed. Become wary. Just answer the question. Yes. Thompson Properties, LLC. Mom, why? And who owns Thompson Properties, LLC? More silence. You knew, I said quietly. You've known all along that I owned that building. Mom, it's complicated. You forged my signature on a rent deferment request. I didn't forge that. I was helping Brandon's family was having a temporary cash flow issue, and I knew you wouldn't mind. You didn't ask me. Because I knew you'd freak out. You don't understand business, Mom. You don't understand the pressure Brandon's family is under. They needed a little flexibility, and it wasn't going to hurt you. $47,000, Rachel. She went quiet. They owe me $47,000, and their lease expires in 7 days. Mom, her voice was thin now, scared. What are you saying? I'm saying I found out about a lot of things today. The building, the money, your signature on documents you had no right to sign. I was trying to help. I was trying to bridge the gap between you and Brandon's family, to show them that you're not just some what, Rachel? I kept my voice steady. What did you tell them I was? Mom, please. What did you tell them? She was crying now. I told them you were in textiles, that you had a business. I made it sound more successful than it is. I didn't want them to judge you. Why would they judge me? Because they're Whitmore's mom. They've been in Savannah Society for 6 generations. Victoria Whitmore chairs the Historic Preservation Society. James Whitmore was on the Governor's Council. And you're... She stopped. I'm what, Rachel? You're a seamstress who lives in a rental house on East Victory Drive, she said. And there it was, the truth she'd been hiding for 5 years. I love you, I do. But you don't fit into their world. And I needed to fit into their world. Do you understand? I understand perfectly. So you'll help with the lease, you'll give them an extension, work out a payment plan. I'll see you at the wedding, Rachel. Mom, wait. I ended the call. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear this time, from clarity. My daughter had chosen them over me. Not just tomorrow with her comedy routine. She'd been choosing them for 5 years. Every time she'd edited my story. Every time she'd minimized my life. Every time she'd made me smaller so she could fit into their world. And she expected me to help her now, to bail out the family she'd chosen over her own mother. I went inside, picked up Robert Chen's business card, and sent him an email. Mr. Chen, please prepare non-renewal documents for the Whitmore Development Group lease. I'll be in your office first thing tomorrow morning to sign them. Sincerely, Margaret Thompson. Then I went to bed. For the first time in 12 years, I slept through the entire night. I arrived at Robert Chen's office at 8 in the morning. I'd woken up at 5, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with all of David's documents spread in front of me. No second thoughts, no wavering, just certainty. Robert was already in his office when I arrived, papers ready. Mrs. Thompson. He gestured to the chair. You're sure about this? I'm sure. He slid 3 documents across his desk. The first is a formal notice of non-renewal. It states that you've chosen not to renew the Whitmore Development Group lease effective June 22nd. I read it carefully, every word, signed it. The second is a formal demand for payment of arrears, $47,000 to be paid within 30 days or subject to legal collection. Signed it. And the third, he paused. This is the one I want you to think carefully about. I looked at the document. What is it? It's a notice to Rachel Thompson that she fraudulently misrepresented herself as an authorized representative of Thompson Properties, LLC. It states that any agreements she signed are null and void, and it requests she cease and desist from any further involvement with the property. I stared at the document. My daughter's name in legal language. Words like fraudulent and misrepresentation and cease and desist. If I sign this, I said slowly, what happens? It goes on record, it protects you legally, and it makes very clear to the Whitmores that Rachel had no authority to help them. It humiliates her. Yes, Robert said quietly. It does. I thought about Rachel's voice on the phone last night, the way she'd said you're a seamstress who lives in a rental house like it was something to be ashamed of. I picked up the pen, signed it. When should these be delivered? I asked. Robert looked at me carefully. That's up to you. Standard practice would be certified mail received within 3 to 5 business days. What about other delivery methods, such as hand delivery, today? He sat back. To the Whitmore residence, to the wedding venue, during the reception. Robert was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Thompson, that would be dramatic. My daughter planned to humiliate me in front of 200 people today. She's been hiding who I am for 5 years. She forged my signature to help the family she chose over me. I met his eyes. Is it dramatic or is it appropriate? Both, he said. It can be both. Can you arrange for a courier professional, official, someone who will require a signature from James Whitmore Sr. personally? Yes. I want these delivered at 6:30, right after the ceremony during cocktail hour before the reception. Robert made a note. I'll arrange it. One more thing. I pulled out the wrapped handkerchief from my purse. David's handkerchief. I was going to give this to Rachel, her something old, but I unwrapped it. I think I need to keep it. Robert nodded. Mrs. Thompson, before you leave, I need to ask, have you thought about what comes next after today? What do you mean in your relationship with your daughter? The Whitmore family will likely be very angry. Rachel will feel betrayed. There will be consequences. I know. Are you prepared for those? I thought about the last 12 years, working 3 jobs, raising Rachel alone, making myself small so she could grow, accepting less and less space in her life so she'd have more room for what she wanted, always hoping she'd turn around and see me, really see me. She never had. Mr. Chen, I said I've spent my whole life being prepared for other people's feelings. Today I'm going to let them be prepared for mine. He smiled. Your husband would be proud of you. I felt tears sting my eyes but blinked them back. I hope so. When I left his office at 9:30, everything was arranged. The courier would deliver the documents at 6:30, right after Rachel's perfect ceremony, right before her perfect reception, right before she was planning to make me into a joke. I had 7 hours until the wedding. I went home, took a long shower, and opened my closet. Rachel had told me to wear something appropriate, something that wouldn't stand out. I pulled out the dress I'd made for myself 3 years ago. Emerald green silk. Simple lines. Elegant. The kind of dress that said I know who I am. I'd never worn it. Had been saving it for, I didn't know what. A special occasion. Today was special enough. I did my hair, put on makeup. Not too much, but enough. Wore the pearl earrings David had given me for our 20th anniversary. At 3 o'clock, I got in my car and drove to the Riverside venue. The parking lot was filling up. Expensive cars. Well-dressed people. String quartet music drifting from the ceremony site. I walked to the entrance and gave my name to the coordinator. She checked her tablet, frowned. Mrs. Thompson, I don't see you on the ceremony seating chart. I'm the bride's mother. Her eyebrows went up. Oh, I'm so sorry. There must be a mistake. Let me... She tapped her screen. You're listed for the reception only. Table 12. Table 12. Yes. It's near the... She caught herself. It's a lovely table. It was the back corner. I'd bet money on it. I'll wait in the garden until after the ceremony, I said. Of course, can I bring you anything? No, thank you. I walked to the garden area away from the ceremony setup, found a bench under an oak tree, sat down. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Mom, where are you? Ceremony starts in an hour. Please tell me you're here. I didn't respond. Another text 5 minutes later. Mom, I'm serious. Please. And another. Fine. Whatever. I don't have time for this. Just be at the reception. I turned off my phone, and I sat in that garden under that oak tree while the string quartet played and guests arrived and my daughter prepared to marry into a family that considered me beneath them. I sat there while they took photos, while they said vows, while 200 people celebrated a union I'd had no real part in planning. I sat there while Rachel became Rachel Whitmore, and I waited for 6:30. When it came, I would give my daughter a gift, not the one she expected, not the one she wanted, but the one she'd earned. The string quartet started playing Pachelbel's Canon. I could hear it from where I sat in the garden under the oak tree away from the ceremony site, could hear the rustle of 200 guests standing, could hear the collective murmur of appreciation as Rachel appeared. I didn't go watch. I sat on that bench, hands folded in my lap, and listened to my daughter get married without me. The ceremony lasted 23 minutes. I counted. When it ended, applause drifted through the garden. Joyful, celebratory. I checked my watch. 5:28. The courier would arrive at 6:30, during cocktail hour. I had an hour to wait. My phone buzzed in my purse. I'd turned it back on after the ceremony. 3 missed calls from Rachel. 2 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I stood up, smoothed my emerald green dress, and walked toward the reception area. The venue coordinator spotted me immediately. Mrs. Thompson, there you are. The receiving line is forming. I'll go straight to my table, thank you. But the bride specifically asked, my table, please. She hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Right this way? Table 12 was exactly where I'd imagined. Back corner, near the kitchen doors, partially hidden by a decorative column. The other seats were already filled. People I didn't know. Friends of the Whitmores based on their clothes and jewelry. They looked up when I approached. Oh, one woman said. You must be from the groom's side. I'm the bride's mother, I said. Silence. Awkward glances. A man cleared his throat. Lovely ceremony. I wouldn't know. I didn't attend. More silence. I sat down. Placed my clutch on the table. Looked at the centerpiece white roses and hydrangeas, probably $300 worth. The woman next to me leaned over. I'm sorry, did you say you're the bride's mother? Yes. And you didn't attend the ceremony? That's correct. She exchanged looks with her husband. Neither said anything else. I didn't blame them. What could they say? The cocktail hour began. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. A jazz trio played near the bar. Guests mingled laughing. Rachel and Brandon stood near the entrance greeting people. Rachel wore a white Vera Wang gown. I recognized the style from bridal magazines. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. She looked beautiful. She also looked anxious. I watched her scan the room repeatedly, looking for someone, looking for me. Our eyes met across the reception space. She went pale, said something to Brandon, started walking toward my table. I checked my watch. 6:25. 5 minutes. Mother? Rachel arrived slightly breathless. Where were you? I looked everywhere. I was in the garden. During the ceremony? Yes. She glanced at the people at my table. They were all suddenly very interested in their champagne. Can we talk privately? I'm fine here. Mom, her voice dropped to a whisper. Please, you're embarrassing me. Am I? Yes. Everyone's asking where you were. Victoria made a comment about the bride's mother missing the ceremony. What did you tell her? Rachel's jaw tightened. That you weren't feeling well. That's not true. I know it's not true. But what was I supposed to say, that you decided to throw a tantrum and skip your own daughter's wedding? The word tantrum hit like a slap. Before I could respond, a waiter approached. Excuse me, is there a Mr. James Whitmore here? Several people turned. James Whitmore Sr., Brandon's father, stepped forward from a nearby group. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, with the confident posture of someone who'd never been told no. I'm James Whitmore. I have a delivery for you, sir. Requires your signature. The waiter stepped aside. A courier in a professional uniform approached, holding a large manila envelope. Rachel's hand went to her throat. What is that? James took the envelope. I'm not expecting anything. It's marked urgent, sir, the courier said. Legal documents. The conversations around us started dying. People were noticing. James signed the electronic pad. The courier nodded and left. Rachel moved toward her father-in-law. James, what? He opened the envelope, pulled out the documents. I watched his face change. Confusion, then shock, then something dark. What the hell is this? He said. Brandon approached. Dad, what's wrong? James handed him the papers without a word. Brandon read. His face went white. This can't be right, he said. Victoria Whitmore materialized beside her husband, champagne glass in hand. Darling, what's happened? We've been served, James said flatly. Notice of non-renewal, effective June 22nd. Non-renewal of what? Our lease, 428 Drayton Street. Victoria's perfectly composed face cracked. What by whom? James looked at the signature line. Then his eyes found me across the room. By Margaret Thompson, he said. Rachel's mother. The room went completely silent. Rachel turned to me. Her face was a mixture of disbelief and horror. Mom, she whispered. What did you do? I stood up, picked up my clutch. I sent you a wedding gift, I said quietly. Did you like it? For a moment, nobody moved. 200 guests stood frozen champagne glasses halfway to lips hors d'oeuvres forgotten on plates. Then everything erupted at once. James Whitmore strode across the reception hall toward me, the documents clutched in his hand. Mrs. Thompson, there must be some mistake. There's no mistake, I said. Brandon grabbed Rachel's arm. You said your mother didn't know about the building. She didn't, Rachel's voice was shrill. I mean, she does now, but Victoria's voice cut through. Someone please explain what's happening. James thrust the papers at her. We're being evicted. From our office. By her. He pointed at me. Guests began murmuring. Phones came out. This was going to be all over Savannah society by midnight. Rachel rushed toward me. Mom, stop this. Whatever you think you're doing. I'm not doing anything except exercising my legal rights as a property owner. You can't evict them. Not today, not at my wedding. Their lease expires in 7 days, I said calmly. This is simply a notification that I'm choosing not to renew it. Because of what? Because I didn't seat you at the head table because you're mad about something stupid. Because you forged my signature, Rachel. The murmuring got louder. Rachel's eyes went wide. I didn't. That was just I was helping. You signed a legal document without my authorization. That's forgery. James stepped forward again. Mrs. Thompson, I'm sure we can work this out. Whatever the issue is with the rent payments, we can negotiate. $47,000, I said. That's what you owe me. 3 months of missed rent. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. We've had some cash flow issues, James said tightly. Temporary. We were working with your representative to arrange a payment plan. I have no representative. My daughter had no authority to negotiate on my behalf. She told us she managed your properties. She lied. Rachel made a sound like a wounded animal. Mom, please. You lied to me, I said, looking directly at her. You lied to them. You've been lying for 5 years about who I am, what I do, where I come from. And tonight you were planning to make me into entertainment for these people. The room went dead silent. Rachel's face was scarlet. How did you? I heard you, I said simply. Yesterday, at the rehearsal, planning your comedy blessing about my fanny pack and my coupons and my poverty. Someone gasped. Several people had their phones out now recording. It wasn't meant to be mean, Rachel stammered. It was supposed to be funny. At my expense. You always laugh things off. You never stand up for yourself. How was I supposed to know you'd... You thought I'd just smile and take it, I said. Because that's what I always do. Right on. Rachel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Brandon put his hand on her shoulder. Rachel, did you really plan something like that? She shook him off. It was Victoria's idea. She said it would be charming, that people would love it. All eyes turned to Victoria. The older woman's face was ice. I suggested Rachel share some endearing stories about her upbringing. I had no idea she planned to mock you, Margaret. You were there, I said. Yesterday, in the bridal suite. You laughed. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. I don't recall. I do, I said. Every word. James looked at his wife, at his son, at Rachel. Is this true? Dad, it wasn't, Brandon started. Is it true? Silence. Then Rachel broke. Yes, okay, yes. I planned a funny bit about Mom because I was embarrassed. Is that what you want to hear? I was embarrassed of my mother, who sews clothes for a living and lives in a rental house and still talks to my dead father's picture every morning. Her voice echoed in the silent room. I was embarrassed, she continued, tears streaming down her face now. Because all of you, she gestured at the Whitmores, at the guests. You're all so perfect and polished and successful, and she's just my mom who never amounted to anything. Rachel. Brandon's voice was shocked. Stop. But she couldn't stop. It was all pouring out now. Do you know what it's like to grow up poor, to have your friends' mothers look at your mother with pity, to shop at Goodwill while everyone else goes to the mall, to use coupons at the grocery store while your friends just buy whatever they want? Your mother worked 3 jobs to raise you, someone said. I turned. It was May Chen standing near the entrance. She must have just arrived. Your mother, May continued, walking into the room, worked as a seamstress, a bookkeeper and a night shift clerk at the hospital to put you through college. She ate ramen for dinner so you could have proper meals. She wore the same 3 outfits for 5 years so you could have new clothes for school. Rachel was sobbing now. I know. Do you? May's voice was sharp. Because from where I'm standing, you forgot all of that the minute you got a fancy job and a rich boyfriend. May, I said softly. It's okay. It's not okay, Maggie. You've been making yourself smaller for this girl for 30 years, and she's been letting you. Victoria cleared her throat. Perhaps we should all take a moment. No, I said. We shouldn't. I looked at Rachel, at my daughter who I'd raised alone, who I'd sacrificed everything for, who was supposed to love me unconditionally. I'm leaving, I said. Enjoy your reception. Rachel grabbed my arm. Mom, wait, we have to fix this. You have to cancel the eviction. I gently removed her hand. No, sweetheart. I don't have to do anything. But the lease Brandon's family needs that building, they'll lose everything. Then perhaps they should have paid their rent. James stepped forward. Mrs. Thompson, please. Be reasonable. We can work something out. Direct all communication to my attorney, I said. Robert Chen. His information is in the documents. You're really doing this? Rachel's voice was small now, broken. You're really going to ruin my wedding day. I looked at her, really looked at her, saw the little girl she'd been, the teenager who'd held my hand at her father's funeral, the college graduate who'd thanked me in her speech, and I saw the woman she'd become, the woman who'd chosen shame over love, status over family, appearance over truth. You ruined it yourself, Rachel, I said softly. The moment you decided I wasn't good enough to stand beside you. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, the room erupted. Voices arguing, someone crying, the chaos of a perfect wedding falling apart. May caught up with me in the parking lot. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, she said. I don't feel brave, I admitted. My hands were shaking. I feel like I just destroyed my relationship with my daughter. You didn't destroy it. She did. Years ago. You just finally noticed. We stood in the parking lot as the sun set over Savannah. Inside the venue, I could hear raised voices. My phone buzzed. Robert Chen. The documents were delivered. Yes, I typed back. How are you holding up? I looked at the venue, at the life I'd just walked away from. I don't know yet. May drove me home. I didn't trust myself to drive. When we got to my small rental house on East Victory Drive, she came inside with me. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked. "No, thank you. I just need to be alone." After she left, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd found David's lockbox, where I'd discovered the property, where I'd realized my daughter had been lying to me for years. My phone started ringing. Rachel, then Brandon, then a number I didn't recognize. I turned it off, and I sat in the silence of my small house and wondered what I'd just done. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table going through photo albums, pictures of Rachel as a baby, as a toddler, in her school plays, at her high school graduation. Every milestone I was there, smiling in the background, proud, hopeful. In every single photo I was wearing the same rotation of 5 outfits, because I'd spent all our money on her. Around midnight, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. May Chen and her brother Robert. I opened the door. "We brought wine," May said, holding up a bottle, "and legal advice." I let them in. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where everything had started yesterday. Robert pulled out his laptop. "I need to show you something." He turned the screen toward me. It was a video from the wedding. Someone had filmed the entire confrontation and posted it to social media. "Don't read the comments," May warned. I watched anyway. The video showed Rachel's face when she realized what the courier was delivering, showed James Whitmore's shock, Victoria's controlled horror, Brandon's confusion, and then it showed Rachel saying those words, "She's just my mom who never amounted to anything." The video had been viewed 50,000 times, in 6 hours. The comments were divided. Half of them supported me. "That mother deserves so much better. Imagine raising your daughter alone and this is how she treats you. The daughter is trash." The other half were vicious. "Evicting someone at their wedding is psychotic. The mom is jealous of her daughter's success. Both of them are toxic." I closed the laptop. I'm trending on social media. "Savannah society is a small world," Robert said. "This was going to get out regardless." "Have you heard from Rachel?" May asked. "She's been calling. I haven't answered." "What about the Whitmores?" Robert nodded. "James Whitmore called my office an hour ago. Wants to negotiate." "For what?" "He's offering to pay the full arrears, $47,000 plus 6 months of rent in advance if you'll renew their lease." I was quiet for a moment. "That's more than I expected." "They're desperate. Without that Drayton Street address, they lose credibility with their investors. And they've got a massive project pending approval with the Historic District Commission. The commission won't approve a project from a developer who's been evicted for non-payment. So they'll go bankrupt. Possibly. At minimum, they'll lose their flagship project, which is worth about $12 million. I felt something twist in my stomach. Not guilt exactly, but something close. May must have seen it on my face. "Maggie, don't you dare feel bad for them. They're Brandon's parents, Rachel's in-laws now. They're also the people who made your daughter ashamed of you, who encouraged her to hide who you are, who laughed about your poverty behind your back." "May's right," Robert said. "You're not responsible for their financial problems. They're 3 months behind on rent because of their own mismanagement." "What happens if I don't renew?" "They have 7 days to vacate. After that, I can file for formal eviction if they refuse to leave. And if I do renew, you set the terms. Market rate rent, which is higher than what they've been paying. Arrears paid in full. Security deposit. First and last month's rent. Standard commercial lease protections." "How much would that be?" Robert pulled up a spreadsheet. "Market rate for that space is about $8,000 a month. With arrears deposits and advance rent, they'd need to come up with approximately $115,000. I whistled softly. "Do they have that?" "If they liquidate some assets, probably. But it would hurt." May poured wine into 3 glasses. "Maggie, what do you want to do?" I took a sip, let it sit on my tongue. What did I want? I thought about Rachel. About the little girl who'd climbed into my lap when her father died and said, "Don't leave me, Mommy." I thought about the teenager who'd defended me to her friends when they mocked our second-hand furniture. I thought about the young woman who'd thanked me in her graduation speech. And I thought about the bride who'd called me the mom who never amounted to anything. "I want to talk to Rachel," I said finally. "One more time, before I decide." May and Robert exchanged glances. "Are you sure?" May asked. She hurt you, Maggie. Deeply. She's still my daughter. She doesn't deserve you. Maybe not, I agreed. But I need to hear what she has to say, face to face, without an audience. Robert nodded. I'll call her attorney. She has an attorney. As of 2 hours ago, James Whitmore hired a family lawyer for both of them. Of course he did. Tell them I'll meet Rachel, tomorrow morning, neutral location, just the two of us. Maggie. May I have to? I have to know if there's anything left to save. After they left, I stood in my small bathroom looking at myself in the mirror. 58 years old, gray in my hair, lines around my eyes, hands worn from work, a seamstress from East Victory Drive, but also a woman who owned a $2.3 million building in the historic district. A woman who'd raised a daughter alone, a woman who'd finally said no. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, but for the first time in 30 years, I was doing my thing. We met at Forsyth Park at 9 in the morning. It was Rachel's suggestion through her attorney. Public space, neutral territory. No chance of anyone causing a scene. I arrived first, sat on a bench near the fountain, watched tourists taking photos and families having picnics and couples walking hand in hand. Normal life, the kind I'd been locked out of for so long. Rachel appeared at 9:15. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, no makeup, hair in a ponytail. She looked like she'd been crying. She sat down on the bench beside me, left 2 feet of space between us. For a long minute, neither of us spoke. Finally, Rachel said, I didn't sleep. Neither did I. I've been trying to figure out when everything went wrong. When I became, she trailed off. Someone who's ashamed of her mother. She flinched. Yeah, that. A family walked past us. Father, mother, 2 little girls. The mother was pushing a stroller. The father was carrying a toddler on his shoulders. They looked happy, simple, uncomplicated. I wondered if Rachel remembered when we used to be like that, when David was alive and we were a family and life was just life, before money and status and shame entered the equation. It started in middle school, Rachel said quietly. Do you remember when I came home crying in 7th grade? I did. She'd been invited to Emma Caldwell's birthday party. Emma's family lived in one of the historic mansions downtown. You made me a dress, Rachel continued. A beautiful dress. You spent 3 days on it. Hand-stitched beading on the neckline. You loved that dress. I did, until I got to the party and saw what everyone else was wearing. Designer labels, store-bought, and there I was in my homemade dress that screamed, we can't afford real clothes. You never told me that, because you'd been so proud of that dress. You'd shown it to May and all your sewing friends. I couldn't tell you that Emma's mother had asked if we shopped at vintage stores and all the girls had laughed. I felt something crack in my chest. Rachel, that was the first time I understood that we were different. That we didn't have what other people had. That I was the poor kid with the struggling single mom. I did the best I could. I know, her voice broke. I know you did, Mom. You were amazing. You worked yourself to death for me, but that didn't change the fact that I was embarrassed. And I hated myself for being embarrassed, which made me even more ashamed. A jogger passed us, then a woman walking 3 dogs. It got worse in high school, Rachel continued. The clothes, the car, the house, all the things I couldn't have. And then Dad's life insurance ran out right before college. Remember? Of course I remember. You took on that night shift at the hospital. Came home at 6 in the morning and went straight to your sewing workshop. Barely slept. And I was supposed to be grateful. I was supposed to appreciate the sacrifice. You were. But I also resented it, she said, tears streaming now. I resented being the poor kid who needed charity, who needed her mother to destroy herself just so I could have a normal life. Rachel, I chose to do those things because I loved you. I know, but love doesn't erase shame. It doesn't make the poverty less real. It doesn't change the fact that I spent my whole childhood wishing we were different. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. When I met Brandon, I saw a way out. A way to be someone else. Someone who didn't come from a rental house on East Victory Drive. Someone whose mother wasn't a seamstress. People looked down on. So you erased me. I tried to. She looked at me finally. I made you smaller and smaller until you were barely there. And you let me. You accepted it. Every time I pushed you away, you stepped back. Every time I was ashamed, you made yourself more invisible. What was I supposed to do? Force you to love me? You were supposed to stand up for yourself. Her voice rose. You were supposed to tell me I was being awful. You were supposed to make me see what I was doing. I thought if I gave you space, you'd come back. And I thought if I made myself acceptable to the Whitmores, I'd finally belong somewhere. We sat with that truth between us. The comedy routine, I said finally. Was that your idea or Victoria's? Rachel took a shaky breath. It started as Victoria's. She said every wedding needs a moment of levity, something to break up the formal speeches. She suggested I share some charming stories about my upbringing. And you twisted that into mockery. I thought if I laughed at you first, they couldn't hurt you. If I made the jokes myself, I controlled the narrative. You weren't protecting me, Rachel. You were protecting yourself. She nodded, crying harder now. I know. I was trying to prove I wasn't like you, that I'd moved beyond where I came from, that I deserved to be a Whitmore. And did it work? Do you feel like you belong? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said no. Yesterday, standing there while everyone stared at me, while that video went viral, while Brandon's parents looked at me like I was toxic. I've never felt more like an outsider. Good, I said. She looked at me shocked. I'm glad you felt that, I continued, because that's how you made me feel for 5 years, like an outsider in my own daughter's life. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. What would fix it? I looked at the fountain, at the water catching the sunlight. I don't know if anything can, I admitted. You didn't just hurt me yesterday, Rachel. You've been hurting me for years, making me smaller, hiding me, being ashamed of the person who loved you most. I want to make it right. Do you want me to make it right for you, to save Brandon's family business, to make this all go away so you can go back to pretending I'm someone I'm not? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I stood up. The Whitmores want to negotiate, to pay their arrears and keep the lease. Are you going to let them? I don't know yet. Mom, please. If you don't renew the lease, James will lose everything. The company will go bankrupt. Brandon will what, leave you? She bit her lip. Is that what you're afraid of? I asked. That without the fairy tale, he won't want you anymore. I don't know, she whispered. I looked at my daughter, at this woman I'd raised alone, who I'd loved unconditionally, who'd repaid that love with shame. Figure it out, I said. Figure out who you are when you're not performing for someone else, when you're not hiding who you came from, when you're just Rachel Thompson, daughter of Maggie Thompson the seamstress. How? That's not my job anymore. I spent 30 years trying to be enough for you. Now you need to figure out how to be enough for yourself. I walked away before she could respond. Left her sitting on that bench in Forsyth Park, crying. And I didn't look back. I made the decision that evening, after walking through Forsyth Park, after driving past the building on Drayton Street that I owned but had never really claimed, after sitting in my small rental house and thinking about what kind of person I wanted to be, I called Robert Chen. I've made my decision about the Whitmore lease. I'm listening. I'll renew it, but on my terms. What terms? Market rate rent, $8,000 a month. Full payment of arrears, $47,000. Security deposit equal to 3 months' rent, all due within 30 days. That's actually very reasonable, Mrs. Thompson. I'm not finished. I also want a formal written apology from James and Victoria Whitmore, not to me, to Rachel. Silence on the line. I'm sorry, Robert said. They encouraged my daughter to be ashamed of me. They made her feel like she had to choose between her family and theirs. They need to acknowledge that. In writing. They're not going to like that. I don't care. Those are my terms. What if they refuse? Then they can vacate by Friday. Robert was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Thompson, can I ask why you're doing this, after everything they've done? I looked at the photo on my refrigerator. Rachel at her college graduation, both of us smiling. Because she's still my daughter, I said. And I won't destroy her life to make a point. But I also won't pretend that what happened was okay. I'll draft the terms and send them over. Thank you, Robert. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a letter to Rachel, by hand, on paper. Dear Rachel, I'm renewing the Whitmore lease. Not because you asked me to, not because I'm afraid of conflict, but because I choose to. You were right about one thing this morning. I did make myself smaller for you. I did let you push me away. I accepted scraps of your attention and told myself it was enough. That ends now. From this point forward, I will not minimize myself for anyone. Not for you, not for the Whitmores, not for anyone who thinks my life or my work or my choices are less valuable than theirs. I love you, I always will, but I will not accept being treated as less than I am. If you want a relationship with me, it will be on equal terms. You don't get to hide me. You don't get to be ashamed of me. You don't get to decide I'm only worth acknowledging when it's convenient. I am Margaret Thompson. I'm a seamstress. I live in a rental house on East Victory Drive. I worked 3 jobs to raise you. I own a building in the historic district. I loved your father. I still talk to his picture every morning because it brings me comfort. I am all of these things, and I'm done apologizing for any of them. When you're ready to love me as I am, not as you wish I was, you know where to find me. Love, Mom. I put the letter in an envelope, drove to Rachel and Brandon's new apartment in the historic district, left it in their mailbox. Then I went home. The next morning, Robert called. The Whitmores accepted your terms, all of them, including the written apology. Victoria Whitmore apparently cried while signing it. Good. Mrs. Thompson, you're a remarkable woman. I'm just a woman who finally figured out what she's worth. That afternoon, Mei Chen came over with champagne. We're celebrating, she announced. Celebrating what? You standing up for yourself, demanding respect, being a complete badass. We sat on my back porch drinking cheap champagne from coffee mugs because I didn't own proper glasses. Do you think Rachel will come around? May asked. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. And if she doesn't? I looked at my small backyard, at the garden I'd planted last spring, at the house that was small but mine. Then I'll be okay, I said. I've been alone before. I know how to survive it. You won't be alone. You have me. You have the community. You have all those women at your sewing workshop who've been rooting for you. I know. And you have a $2.3 million building in the historic district. I laughed. There's that too. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Savannah. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Thompson, this is Brandon Whitmore. Thank you for renewing the lease. You didn't have to do that. I want you to know that Rachel and I are separating. She needs time to figure out who she is, and I need to figure out who I am without my family's expectations. I'm sorry for how we treated you. You deserved better. I showed the text to May. Oh, she said. Yeah. Are you okay? I think so. Is that terrible? That I'm not devastated? My daughter's marriage is ending. It's not terrible. It's honest. Another text came through. This one from Rachel. I got your letter. You're right about everything. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. Can we talk? Really talk, no attorneys, no audiences, just us. I stared at the message for a long time. What are you going to do? May asked. I'm going to finish my champagne, and then I'm going to think about it. And then maybe I'll say yes, but on my terms, in my time, when I'm ready. Good, May said. That's really good, Maggie. We clinked our coffee mugs together, and for the first time in 30 years, I felt like myself. Not someone's mother, not someone's project, not someone to be ashamed of. Just Margaret Thompson, seamstress, property owner, survivor, enough. I didn't respond to Rachel's text for 3 weeks, not out of cruelty, not even out of anger anymore. I just needed space, time. The ability to breathe without worrying about someone else's feelings for once. Those 3 weeks were the quietest of my life. No phone calls from Rachel begging for forgiveness. No surprise visits. No letters or texts after that first one. Just silence. At first, the silence felt wrong, like something was missing. For 30 years, my life had revolved around Rachel, her needs, her schedule, her emotions. The sudden absence of that weight felt like floating, disorienting, but also freeing. I spent those weeks doing things I hadn't done in years. I took a pottery class at the community center. Turned out I was terrible at it. My bowls came out lopsided and my vases collapsed. But I laughed, actually laughed, at myself, at the mess, at the pure joy of creating something with no purpose except the creating itself. I joined Mei Chen for her morning walks along the river. We'd leave at 6, watch the sun come up over the water, talk about nothing important. Books we'd read, recipes we wanted to try. The tourists who asked us for directions. I started eating dinner at the kitchen table instead of standing at the counter. Set out a placemat. Used real dishes. Sometimes I even lit a candle. Small things. Tiny acts of treating myself like I mattered. One evening May came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine that wasn't cheap this time. "Okay," she said, settling onto my couch. "I've been patient, but I have to ask. What's going on with Rachel?" "Nothing. Nothing. She texted 3 weeks ago, asked if we could talk. I haven't responded." May's eyebrows went up. "Maggie Thompson leaving someone on read, who are you, and what have you done with my friend?" I smiled. "I'm figuring that out. Have you thought about what you want to say to her?" "Every day, but I don't know yet. I picked at my Kung Pao chicken." "Is that terrible, that I don't know if I want to talk to my own daughter?" "It's honest, which is more than she was with you for 5 years." We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then May said, "Did you hear what happened with the Whitmores?" "No. Should I have?" "James Whitmore resigned from the Historic Preservation Society board. Victoria withdrew from 3 charity committees. Word is they're trying to be less visible. Because of what happened at the wedding. Because of what the written apology revealed. Apparently, when you demanded they apologize to Rachel in writing, they had to acknowledge their role in making her ashamed of you. That letter got leaked somehow." I set down my fork. "Leaked how?" May shrugged, but her eyes were twinkling. "These things happen. Savannah society loves nothing more than watching the mighty fall. Mei Chen, did you?" "I didn't do anything. But if someone at the copy center where the Whitmores had the letter notarized happened to mention it to someone else, well, I can't control that." "Maybe, what they deserved it. They spent years making people feel inferior. Now they get to feel what that's like." I should have felt guilty. Should have felt bad that the Whitmores were being publicly shamed. But I didn't. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, vindicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Robert Chen. "Mrs. Thompson, the Whitmore rent payment came through. On time. Full amount plus a $2,000 bonus for your patience. I've deposited it in your property account." I stared at the message. $2,000 bonus for my patience. The Whitmores were afraid of me now. "What is it?" May asked. I showed her the text. She grinned. "Look at you. Property mogul. Striking fear into the hearts of old money Savannah." "I don't want to strike fear into anyone." "No, you just want to be respected. And now you are." She raised her wine glass. "To Margaret Thompson, the woman who finally stopped making herself small." We clinked glasses, and for the first time I let myself think about what came next. Not with Rachel, not with the Whitmores, with me. Who was I without my role as Rachel's mother, without the identity I'd built around sacrifice and martyrdom? I was about to find out. The letter arrived at my workshop on a Tuesday morning. Thick cream envelope, expensive paper. For a moment I thought it was another wedding invitation and my stomach clenched. But the return address read Thompson Commons Initiative, Co-City of Savannah Historic Preservation. I opened it carefully. "Dear Mrs. Thompson, my name is Patricia Hughes. I'm the director of the Savannah Women's Resource Center, a nonprofit organization supporting women re-entering the workforce after periods of unemployment, incarceration, or domestic displacement. Your story has inspired many women in our community, specifically your courage in standing up for yourself and asserting your worth despite years of being diminished. I'm writing to propose a partnership. We've learned that you own commercial property at 428 Drayton Street. We understand that you have vacant space on the 4th floor. We'd like to propose using that space for a skills training center, specifically teaching sewing, tailoring, and textile arts to women who need marketable skills. We can't offer market rent, but we can offer purpose, and we believe you might be interested in that. If you'd like to discuss this opportunity, please contact me at the number below. With respect and admiration, Patricia Hughes." I read the letter 3 times. A skills training center, teaching sewing to women who needed it, using my building, my skills, my story. I thought about the girl I'd been at 26 when David died and left me alone with a toddler and no real job skills except sewing. How terrified I'd been. How desperate. What would it have meant to me then to have someone teach me, to have a place that treated my work as valuable? I picked up my phone and called the number. Patricia Hughes answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm so glad you called. Tell me more about your program," I said. We talked for an hour, about the women she served, about the barriers they faced, about how something as simple as knowing how to alter clothes or sew on buttons could lead to employment dignity, self-sufficiency. By the end of the call, I'd agreed to meet with her, and by the end of the week, I'd signed a partnership agreement. The 4th floor of my building would become the Margaret Thompson Skills Center, rent $1 per year, term 5 years with options to extend. Patricia cried when I signed the papers. "You have no idea what this means," she said, "to these women, to this community." "I think I do," I replied. "I was one of these women once. And look at you now." I looked around Robert Chen's office at the legal documents making this official at this new chapter of my life beginning. "Yeah," I said softly. "Look at me now." The center took 3 weeks to set up. I donated 6 sewing machines from my workshop. Patricia's organization provided fabric thread and supplies. Volunteers painted the walls a warm cream color. We hung photos of strong women Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Maya Angelou, my own grandmother with her sewing kit. On the day before our grand opening, I was arranging chairs when I heard footsteps on the stairs. I turned. Victoria Whitmore stood in the doorway. She wore simple slacks and a blouse. No jewelry except small pearl earrings. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun. She looked diminished, smaller than she'd seemed at the wedding. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, "may I come in?" I wanted to say no, wanted to ask her to leave, but curiosity won. "All right." She walked around the space, slowly taking in the sewing machines, the cutting tables, the inspiration board we'd created with quotes about resilience and strength. "This is remarkable," she said finally. "Thank you. I heard about the partnership with the Women's Resource Center. It's all over the Historic Preservation Society." She paused. "People are impressed." "I didn't do it to impress people." "I know. That's why it's impressive." She turned to face me. "Mrs. Thompson, I owe you an apology. A real one. Not the legal document my attorney drafted." "You don't owe me anything." "I do. I encouraged your daughter to be ashamed of you. I made her feel like her background was something to hide. Her voice cracked. "I've spent my whole life believing that breeding and money and social position were what mattered. And I taught that poison to everyone around me, including Rachel." "Why are you telling me this?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I lost my son. Brandon left Savannah 2 weeks ago, moved to Charleston, said he needed distance from the family toxicity. Those were his exact words. I felt a small pang. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned it." She walked to the window, looked out over Drayton Street. "Do you know what the worst part is? I look at what you've built here, this center, this opportunity for women, and I realize I've never built anything. I've just maintained, preserved, protected the status quo. It's not too late to change." She laughed bitterly. "Isn't it I'm 63 years old? My son won't speak to me. My daughter-in-law is in therapy trying to undo the damage I helped cause. My husband barely looks at me. And my entire social circle is whispering about how the mighty Whitmores fell. So build something new." She turned to me, surprised. "What may? You have money, connections, free time apparently. Use it for something good. Stop preserving the past and start creating a better future." I wouldn't know where to start. I gestured around the room. "We could use volunteers, women who can teach professional skills, interview techniques, business etiquette, how to navigate professional spaces when you feel like an outsider." Victoria stared at me. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to be useful, to help instead of hurt, to build instead of gatekeep." I met her eyes. "But only if you mean it. These women don't need another person making them feel small." She swallowed hard. "I don't know if I'm capable of that." "Then figure it out. Just like you made Rachel figure out how to hide her mother. Except this time, figure out how to be genuine." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'll think about it. You do that. She walked to the door, then stopped. Mrs. Thompson, your daughter is miserable. I don't know if you care, but she is. I know. Are you going to talk to her? When I'm ready? Victoria nodded. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing, making her wait, making her understand what she lost. After she left, I sat in one of the chairs and looked around the space. This center, this new purpose, this version of myself that was emerging. I liked her. Margaret Thompson, the woman who said no, the woman who demanded respect, the woman who built something meaningful. I liked her a lot. The letter from Rachel arrived on a Saturday. Not a text, not an email. A handwritten letter delivered by mail. I recognized her handwriting immediately. The same careful script she'd developed in 3rd grade when Mrs. Patterson had taught them cursive. I made tea before opening it. Sat at my kitchen table. Let the afternoon sun stream through the window. Then I unfolded the pages. Dear Mom, I've written this letter 17 times. Every version felt wrong. Too defensive, too apologetic, too much about me and not enough about you. So I'm just going to be honest. I destroyed us. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 small moments over 5 years. Every time I edited your story. Every time I cringed when you showed up. Every time I wished you were someone different. I destroyed us because I was destroying myself. I thought if I could become someone else, someone polished and perfect and acceptable to people like the Whitmores, I'd finally feel whole. I'd finally feel like I deserved good things. But it didn't work. I just felt emptier and more ashamed. Not of you, of myself. I'm in therapy now, 3 times a week. Dr. Patricia Hughes, yes, the same Patricia who runs the Women's Resource Center. She's helping me understand why I've spent my whole life running from who I am. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with me. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not writing to ask you to fix things. That's not your job. I'm writing to tell you I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you stood up at my wedding, that you demanded respect, that you built a skills center to help other women, that you finally stopped making yourself small. I'm proud of you, and I'm ashamed that it took me 30 years to say it. Brandon and I are separated. We might divorce. I don't know yet. He's a good man, Mom. Better than I deserved. But he was right. We both need to figure out who we are without our family's expectations weighing on us. I moved into a small apartment near Forsyth Park. 1 bedroom. IKEA furniture. Nothing fancy. And you know what? I like it. For the first time in 5 years, I'm living somewhere that feels like mine. I got a new job too. Not in marketing. I'm working at the Women's Resource Center. Administrative assistant. It doesn't pay much, but I'm helping Patricia set up the skills center you created. Registering women for classes. Helping them fill out applications. Last week, a woman came in. She was 52. Lost her job 6 months ago. Didn't know how to sew. Was terrified she'd never work again. I registered her for your introductory sewing class. And when she asked me why I thought sewing mattered, I told her about you. I told her about how you raised me alone after Dad died. How you worked 3 jobs. How you made my prom dress by hand because we couldn't afford to buy one. How you built a life out of nothing but determination and skill and love. I told her the truth, Mom, for the first time in 5 years. And it felt like breathing. I don't know if you'll ever want to see me again. I don't know if we can fix what I broke. But I needed you to know that I'm trying. I'm trying to become someone worthy of being your daughter, even if it's too late. I love you. I always have, even when I acted like I didn't. Love, Rachel. I set the letter down with shaking hands, read it again and again. Then I did something I hadn't done since the wedding. I cried. Not from pain this time, from something more complicated. Hope, grief, relief, love, all of it tangled together in a way that hurt and healed at the same time. The grand opening of the Margaret Thompson Skills Center happened on a Tuesday in August. 40 women showed up, some in their 20s just starting out, some in their 50s starting over, all of them nervous, hopeful, scared. Patricia Hughes gave a speech about empowerment and opportunity. Robert Chen spoke about how property ownership could be used for community good. May Chen cried happy tears and took about 1,000 photos, and I stood in front of those 40 women and told my story. About being 26 and widowed, about not knowing how to support myself, about learning to sew out of desperation and building it into a life. I'm not a success story, I said. I'm just a woman who kept going, who learned that survival is its own kind of victory, who figured out that the work our hands can do matters. They applauded. Some of them cried. Then I taught the first class. Basic stitches, how to thread a needle, how to make a straight seam. Simple things. Foundational things. The things I'd needed someone to teach me 32 years ago. After the class ended and the women filtered out, I was putting away supplies when I heard footsteps. I turned. Rachel stood in the doorway. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked younger, lighter. She also looked terrified. "Hi, Mom," she said quietly. "Rachel." My voice was steady, calm. "I didn't know you'd be here. I work here now. Patricia hired me. I've been helping set up registration, organize supplies. I thought you knew. She didn't mention it. I asked her not to. I didn't want you to feel ambushed." We stood there 20 feet apart in the center I'd built. The silence stretched between us like a bridge, or maybe a canyon. I couldn't tell which. "I got your letter," I said finally. "I wasn't sure if you'd read it." "I read it. All 17 versions, I'm guessing." A small smile flickered across her face. "Just the one I sent. But yes, there were 16 others in my trash can." "Rachel, Mom, wait, please. Let me say this." She took a breath. "I know you're not ready to forgive me. Maybe you never will be. I understand that. I accept it. Do you?" "I'm trying to. I'm trying to accept that I hurt you so badly that you might not want me in your life anymore. That I might have destroyed something that can't be rebuilt." I set down the scissors I'd been holding. "And if that's true, if we can't go back, then I'll live with it. Because that's my consequence. That's what I earned." Her voice shook. "But I'm hoping maybe we can build something new. Not mother and daughter the way we were. Something different. Something honest." "What would that look like?" "I don't know. Maybe we start small. Coffee once a month. Emails, taking it slow. Letting me prove that I've changed." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not the same person I was at that wedding, Mom. I'm not the same person who planned to mock you in front of 200 people. Who are you now?" She thought about it. "I'm Rachel Thompson, daughter of Margaret Thompson, working at a nonprofit for $12 an hour, living in a 500-square-foot apartment, learning how to sew because I want to understand what you do, what you've always done. You're learning to sew. Patricia's teaching me. I'm terrible at it. My stitches are crooked and I keep pricking my fingers, but I'm trying." I felt something crack in my chest, the same thing that had cracked at the wedding, except this time it wasn't breaking open. It was breaking through. "Why?" I asked. "Why are you learning to sew?" "Because I want to understand you. Really understand you. Not the version of you I created in my head to feel better about my shame. The real you. The woman who built a life with needle and thread and determination." We looked at each other across that space. Mother and daughter, and strangers and intimates all at once. "I'm not ready to forgive you," I said honestly. "I know. I'm not ready to go back to how things were. I don't want to go back. That relationship was built on my shame and your sacrifice. It was broken from the start." "So what do we do?" Rachel took a step forward. "Just one. We start over, from scratch, like we're two people meeting for the first time, and we see if we can build something real." I thought about David, about the letter he'd left me in the lockbox. "Stand tall," he'd written. "Don't let anyone take that from you." Standing tall meant more than just asserting my worth. It meant choosing what came next, on my terms. "Coffee," I said. "Once a month. Neutral location. 1 hour." Hope flashed across Rachel's face. "Really?" "Really. But Rachel," I met her eyes. "If you ever make me feel small again, if you ever ask me to hide who I am, if you ever choose someone else's comfort over my dignity, we're done. For good. No second chances." "I understand." "Do you? Because this is it. This is the only chance you get to rebuild this." "I understand, Mom. I swear." I nodded. "Okay, then. Okay. Okay." She started crying. Happy tears this time. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Don't thank me yet. You have to earn this. I will. I promise. I'll spend the rest of my life earning it if I have to. Good, I said, because that's exactly how long it might take. We met at the bench where we'd had our first real conversation after the wedding. Our 5th coffee date. Once a month, just like we'd agreed. Rachel brought the coffee this time, made it herself in her apartment, in a thermos because she knew I liked my coffee hot. How's the sewing coming? I asked as we settled onto the bench. She groaned. I made a pillowcase last week. It took me 4 hours and it's completely lopsided, but I made it. That's progress. Slow progress. How do you do this every day? My fingers are permanently sore. You get used to it. Build calluses, literal and metaphorical. She smiled. Patricia says you're the best teacher they've ever had at the center. The women love you. I love them back. They remind me of me, scared but trying. That's all any of us can do, right? Be scared and try anyway. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The park was quiet, too cold for most tourists. Just us and a few joggers and a woman walking her dog. Mom, Rachel said carefully, can I tell you something? Of course. Brandon and I finalized the divorce last week. I looked at her. How are you feeling? Sad, relieved, both. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. We loved each other, but we were both trying to be people we weren't. For our families, for Savannah society, for everyone except ourselves. That's a hard way to live. It's an impossible way to live. I finally figured that out. She paused. He's dating someone new, a teacher from Charleston. She's normal, nice, doesn't care about the Whitmore name or the society pages. Are you okay with that? I'm happy for him. He deserves someone who loves him for who he is. She looked at me. Kind of like how you deserved a daughter who wasn't ashamed of you. Rachel, no, it's true, and I need to keep saying it, to remind myself, to make sure I never forget what I did. You don't have to flagellate yourself forever. I know, but I do have to remember, so I never do it again. A jogger passed us, then a couple holding hands. The Whitmores paid their rent on time again this month, I said. 6 months in a row now, plus that bonus. Victoria's been volunteering at the center, Rachel said. Did you know that Patricia mentioned it? She's teaching business etiquette classes, how to dress for interviews, how to navigate professional spaces. She's actually good at it. People can change, if they want to badly enough. Like me, I looked at my daughter, at this woman I'd raised, who'd hurt me, who was trying to heal both of us now. Yes, I said. Like you. We finished our coffee as the sun started setting, turned the sky pink and gold over Savannah. Same time next month, Rachel asked as we stood to leave. Same time next month. She hesitated. Mom, can I hug you? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I opened my arms. She stepped into them, and for the first time in 6 months, I held my daughter. It didn't fix everything. Didn't erase the hurt. Didn't magically restore what we'd lost. But it was a start, and sometimes a start is enough. The Margaret Thompson Skills Center celebrated its first anniversary on a warm August evening. Over the past year, we'd taught 173 women. 84 of them had found employment. 12 had started their own small businesses. 7 had gone back to school. Patricia gave a speech. May Chen cut the anniversary cake. Robert Chen presented me with a framed photo of the building, my building with a plaque that read property owner. Teacher, builder of dreams. Rachel was there too, now the center's assistant director. She'd learned to sew well enough to teach beginner classes. Still not perfect, but good enough. At the end of the evening, after everyone else had left, Rachel and I stood in the empty center. You did this, Mom, she said softly. You took something David left you and turned it into something that matters. We did this, I corrected. You, me, Patricia, all the volunteers. Community. But you started it. You had the courage to claim what was yours. I looked around the space, at the sewing machines and cutting tables and inspiration boards, at the photos on the wall of graduates women who'd come through our program and rebuilt their lives. You know what I realized? I said. When I found out about this building, I thought the property was the gift, the money, the power, the leverage, but that wasn't it. What was it? The permission. To stop making myself small. To demand respect. To stand tall. I turned to Rachel. David didn't leave me a building. He left me my dignity back. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I tried to take that from you. You did. For a while. But you took it back. Yes, I did. She wiped her eyes. I'm so proud to be your daughter, Mom, even if I don't always deserve to be. You're earning it, I sassy said. Every day, by showing up, by being honest, by doing the work. Is it enough? Will it ever be enough? I thought about the past year, the monthly coffee dates, the careful rebuilding, the moments of connection and the moments of distance, the slow, hard work of forgiving without forgetting. Ask me again in another year, I said. She laughed. Fair enough. We walked out together into the Savannah evening. The city was beautiful, historic, and vibrant, and full of life. My phone buzzed. A text from May dinner at my place tomorrow. I'm making your favorite. I texted back. Wouldn't miss it. Another text came through. From Victoria Whitmore. Mrs. Thompson, I have a student who's interested in starting her own alteration business. Would you have time to mentor her? I replied. Have her call me tomorrow. Rachel walked beside me to our cars. You have plans every night this week, don't you? Pottery class Monday. Book club Tuesday. Dinner with May Wednesday. Teaching at the center Thursday and Friday. Lunch with Patricia Saturday. You have a life, she said wonderingly. I do. Turns out when you stop living for other people's approval, you find time for yourself. We reached my car, a newer model purchased with rental income from my building. Mom, Rachel said. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me, even when I deserved it. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, who'd broken my heart, who was slowly, carefully earning her way back into it. Rachel, I'm your mother. I could never give up on you completely, but I also will never go back to being invisible in your life. I don't want you to be invisible. I want you to be you, exactly as you are. Then we're on the right track. I drove home through downtown Savannah, past my building on Drayton Street, the building that had changed everything, past the Riverside venue where Rachel had gotten married, past all the places that had been part of my old life. And I drove toward my new apartment, the one I'd moved into 3 months ago. Still small, but nicer, in a better neighborhood, with a spare room I used for sewing projects and pottery disasters and whatever else I felt like doing. I parked and walked upstairs, let myself into my space. On the refrigerator was the photo from the Skills Center anniversary. Me, Patricia May, and Rachel, all smiling. Beside it was David's letter, the one from the lockbox. Stand tall, it said. I was standing tall now. Finally. After 58 years of making myself small, after 30 years of sacrifice, after a lifetime of putting everyone else first, I was standing tall. And it felt like coming home.